All right, folks, welcome to a session I've been waiting for a long time. You might have seen recently I've been talking a lot about video prospecting, and truth be told, it is kind of hard when you're new to it. And if you're not learning the ropes, if you're not failing fast enough to know what's working, it's difficult. And I won't shy away from this. Sometimes when I've recorded videos before, I sit here and I'm looking at the camera and 10 minutes go past, 15 minutes go past, 20 minutes go past. I haven't actually recorded anything, and I've looked at my script 20 times, read it aloud, nothing happened. We're here to stop that. No one wants to do that. It's not fun. I can testify to that personally. And two people that helped me out tremendously with this are here with me today. The marketer and me said what they told me and how much they helped me, it's got to be worth it for everybody else as well who's trying to send some videos out there, reach out to their target market, book more meetings. That's what we care about. So before I jump into the introductions, I got a quick couple of ground rules to go over, and then we can get right into it. So as normal, everybody asks this, but I got to assure you, you will get the recording of this webinar. Just check out, check out, have a look out in your inbox. It will come within the next couple of days. And please let us know where you're signing in from. It's amazing. And I'm telling you the truth, it's amazing. Every time we do a webinar, you get Chile, Brazil, Spain, England, Canada, Serbia. It's amazing where the crowd comes from. So do let us know where you're dialing in from. And let's get into it. So my guests today, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But if you guys don't mind, and starting with Raver, I'd like you to tell us something that not many people know about you as well. So Raver, why don't you say hello to the folks?
I would say a fun fact that not many people know about me is after graduating high school, I really wanted to join the circus and go to circus school, but my mom geared me over to more of a traditional route.
Wow. I've not heard that one before, I'll be honest. Do you think you could have done it? Would it have been good?
Probably not, but I really wanted to. I loved being an acrobat, but I don't think I was like a circus level acrobat.
No pressure, Tyler. You got to live up to that one.
Well, I just was going to say that your dream has come true, Reva, because being a sales rep at Vidyard, you're constantly juggling things. You're walking tight ropes. I'll just leave it there. Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Lessard. I'm VP Marketing here at Vidyard and our Chief Video Strategist. I work with businesses across the board to help out with how they're leveraging video in their own sales and marketing processes. And one, I'd say, not very well known fact about me is though I head up our marketing team, I work a lot with our sales team. I'm actually an engineer by trade. I graduated from the University of Waterloo as a systems design engineering grad and spent the first part of my career as a software developer. Big story to how I got here, but I was not a good developer. So I'm really happy to be here in the world of marketing and sales.
Love it. Okay, so I have to ask both of you something that I've been trying to get my head around a little bit, and I'll be honest, I have some answers, but definitely not all of it. We all know, everybody here should have an idea that video goes into the sales process, obviously, particularly in prospecting. But can you lay some groundwork for us, and maybe let's start with Raver. Where else does it come into the sales process, and what kind of things are we using video for? Because it's one thing to have a novelty and those kinds of fads come and go, but what else are we doing with video, and why are we doing it?
Yeah, so what else beyond prospecting? I would say that the first place that people think video can be used is definitely that first touch in prospecting. But in my role as a commercial AE, I know I lean on video quite heavily throughout beyond that discovery call. So whether it's using a video to summarize what you chatted about with someone, or even using a video to confirm that a meeting is still going to happen later that week. Those can be really helpful ways to keep your deal chugging along. I would say another really great way to use video that I think could be used more is sending like pre-created content. It doesn't always have to be you on video talking to someone. It can be something about your product, or a little demo type video. And then I would say another really useful place to use video is walking through proposals, because we know that you might be sending that proposal to one person, but maybe they have to like share it with their manager, share it with their CFO. So I think that's a very helpful way to use video as well.
So maybe Tyler's got a perspective on this that's a little different. He's probably on both sides of this. What's it like being in marketing at Vidyard? Do a lot of people send you a video? And I'd love to know, are they good all the time? But there's never going to be a perfect balance, but I imagine what you see is a little different than most.
Yeah, well, the reality is, Ollie, that not that many people still today send me videos when they're prospecting into me, when we are going through a potential sales cycle. And it's, I think one big takeaway for all of you out there is actually that this is still new, right? So if you're not yet sending videos as part of your prospecting, if you're not recording and sharing videos throughout your sales process, you're not behind, don't worry. However, it is absolutely your opportunity to get ahead and to be different. And I'll be, perfectly frank, when I do see somebody reach out to me with a video, it's not just because I'm a Vidyard guy, it's because, I will click into those because I know in a short period of time, I'm going to get to know that person a little bit more personally than just what I would typically see in an email message. And I also expect that they're going to have a pretty good message for me because they took the time to put themselves on camera. And I have to assume that they put in the time to do that research to make sure that they could put their best foot forward. So again, I think, all of these times when we see videos come into our inbox, our expectations of value are much greater. And it's the same for me as with anybody else. Those videos that I do get, Ollie, they're all over the place, right? Some of them you just like, come on, really? Like it's just a clear pitch. They're like, hey, I made you a video because blah, blah, blah. And it's the exact same thing they would have normally said in their email. But in other cases, the good ones are the people that genuinely connect with me, that are very authentic, very personal, and they show me that they honestly want to help. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for people using it in prospecting today.
Okay, so I'm going to share a very quick story, and I said before in the introduction that Rava and Tyler were kind enough to help me with my video prospecting, and it helped me out so much that, I'm going for, I think I said before, I was here somewhat, and now I'm at least here with what I'm able to do with it. I'm definitely not perfect or hitting 200 meetings a month or anything crazy, but I've gone from no idea what I was doing and pretty bad responses and pretty bad engagement to getting a lot better. And where I started was, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't know what to do with this, but I think it's a good idea and I think I should do it. I think that's where a lot of people start. And I think in a second, we'll get into what a great video looks like in terms of its structure. But I think what I've learned personally, and I'd like to know what you both think, is you can't just repeat what you've written down in a cold email, because that was my default. That was my comfort zone. Is I've written this email, I'm fine with that, so I'm going to read it because that's easy enough to do. But I didn't adapt the message to the medium at all, and I think it really showed in how I was doing with it. So, who wants to take this one first? Am I doing the total wrong thing there, or was I? And hopefully, what's the first step I can take to get away from that?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think that it's like probably a good first step is you have this type of script, you have this email that you like and you feel comfortable with. But I think that your like gut sense of this doesn't feel quite right is totally right. You're on the right track. This is a different medium. So you can do different things with this medium, and you don't necessarily need to fit your square email into this round hole. So I would say one kind of tip with video is to have structure to it. It can feel a little bit off the cuff, and it should come across as off the cuff. But as the person recording the video, I think it's very helpful when you have sort of stakes in the ground that you want to hit. So whether that's an intro to that video that you feel very comfortable with, and you could say it in your sleep and you say it every time. And then the outro, which is also that same CTA or what type of action you want that person to take at the end of the video. And then in the middle, that's where the content sort of changes from person to person. The ideas you're bringing up, the insights you're trying to share, that's going to be based on the research you do. But that structure is going to look a bit different than your email structure.
Okay, so let's double down into the structure, because that word came up a few times there. So maybe Tyler, on the side of you're getting more of these videos than most people, what separates the bad ones from the good ones in the structure? And I know you said that sometimes it's just literally a pitch for using a different medium. But what's how do the sellers that are doing it separate what they're doing inside of it? There'll be a hook, a pitch, a call to action. How are they ordering it, and what's different between the good and the bad?
Yeah, I've seen this from lots of different sellers that I work with as well, in addition to what I've received and what I'm seeing people do out there. And I think the best videos, structure is one part of it, but the thoughtfulness in terms of how it's delivered, in terms of how they're using visuals, all these things come into play. And what's really interesting with video is that there is a lot more dimensions to how you can create this message, right? With email, traditional email, you're bound by it's text only, right? So there's only so many things that you can do, and you can drop images in there, and you can do GIFs and things like that. But there's sort of this single dimension of I'm working within text, and this is how we do it. And voicemail, similar, it's voice only. With video, you have this creative, platform to be able to put yourself out there, to be visual, to be audible, to show things even through a screen share. And so it actually is very liberating because it can open up how it is you create these messages. And when you think about your structure, what's interesting is it's not just anymore, okay, like it's what's my message, like what's my script, here it is. It's like, okay, but actually I can, again, infuse this with emotion and energy. I can be a little bit more personal with things. I can use props. I can show something on my screen. All of these become a part of the structure of your video. And the best people, Ollie, the best sellers think in that way, and they take that fresh approach, much like you were suggesting, and saying, okay, the goal of this video is to get their attention, to build a quick connection, and to tease their interest in how I can help them with this. So the structure of my language is going to be a quick intro, pick up on a theme or a problem, and then close it out with a CTA. But that's just the start of it, because I'm going to think about how can I bring that to life, right? How can I use my personality to connect early on? And then how can I use something visually to reinforce the problem they may have? And there's really creative ways to do that we're seeing from different reps out there. And I think that's the key to unlocking the power of this.
So you said props. That's not one that I've heard too much. I've seen that kind of sparingly in webinars. Someone might have a Danny DeVito cutout behind them, and I'll bring him in to come and join the conversation. I've seen that maybe twice in my life. So what kind of props are we talking about?
Well, it doesn't need to be, things that you would think of as always like, funny, silly props. We're not putting on a show or entertainment necessarily, but there are lots of ways in which you can use both physical props as well as digital props, if you can do a screen share video, that provide visual elements, cues, things that are going to help that person better relate to your message, right? So one prop a lot of people use is actually a little whiteboard. And they will hold that up in their video, potentially as a way to make sure they create a more personalized thumbnail image. I've got one here. This is one I just used yesterday. It says, "Thank you. Yes, even you, Daryl." It was a fun one I sent to a few people, including my good friend Daryl Prail, who you may know.
You didn't need to do that, but I'm sure he appreciates it.
But people will use that as a way to write a message, write a name, and it helps to create that familiarity right off the bat, right from the thumbnail image. But there's, very much other ways. One of my favorite examples was a seller from a company called Woodway UK who sells packaging solutions. And he was selling into the Body Shop. Now, I'm sure some of you out there know the Body Shop. They sell, oils and soaps and the best bath bombs. Absolutely love them. And he was thinking about, how do I get in front of them? And he made a video where he actually showed, he ordered a package from the Body Shop. And he actually made a little unboxing video. So in his video, you see him with the box from the Body Shop. That was his prop. And when he hits record, he says, "Hey, folks at Body Shop, I wanted to show you something here about how I could help with your packaging." And he says, "I ordered one of your packages here, and I want to show you. I opened it. Here is the packaging paper that was used. And I laid it out here, and you can see there's 7 meters worth of packaging paper. And right beside it, I just wanted to show you what our solution offers and how I was able to safely repackage your product." And you could see very clearly his packaging solution had less than half the amount of packaging. And he gave this message in like 65 seconds or so, where you could very clearly see it. Like as somebody at the Body Shop, you're like, "Yep, that's the package we send. Yep, that's our product. Oh my gosh, he can absolutely help me. And it was the way of using those visuals, right? So it's about getting creative like that and thinking about what would really resonate with your prospects.
So that individual, they've used it to show off what an email body couldn't in one way or another.
100%.
It's the bullet points or the value prop in a sentence that's out of the window, because seeing here is your logo and this is what I'm doing with it, that's much more powerful. So that's what I would take away, is what they've done with that. And Rava, Tyler said there about whiteboards. I've seen a lot of whiteboard videos and people hold them up, and sometimes it's the high name, or I've seen logos quite often. Do you do that a lot? Is that kind of like a small percentage of how you do your own videos, or a big part of it? What kind of things are you putting on that whiteboard? So that, I imagine that's your thumbnail, so that you can kind of bait the person into opening it because they can see there's relevancy to them. So what kinds of things are you putting on that whiteboard?
Yeah, so I would say 50% of the time when I'm recording a webcam video, so one where I'm speaking directly to the camera, I'm using a whiteboard. There are times that I choose not to use one. It just depends on who I'm reaching out to, why I'm reaching out. But if it's someone that I've never met before and I want to introduce myself to them, I'll definitely use the, hey, first name. I'll also use the whiteboard if I'm reaching out to many people at an account. So one instance is I work with our customer base, and oftentimes I'm reaching out to people at a company who've signed up for our free product. I just want to introduce myself as a resource. I'm not going to sit and record a video for every single person. So I might say, hey, VanillaSoft team, and that way I can use that video many times and it's not customized for one person. I think whiteboards can be used as well for, inviting someone to an event, or wishing them happy holidays, whatever that might be, or congratulating them. So something that's enticing and relevant that you can put on the whiteboard. If you're very artistic, I've seen people draw pictures on the whiteboard, and you can get creative there, but it's just one of many ways to make your thumbnail interesting.
So can I ask you, is there a rule of thumb for that then? So if you're doing a high auto-close, high VanillaSoft team, then it's most likely the logo. Obviously, it wouldn't be one name. If it's to one person, is it always name? Or is there a case for doing the company too?
I would say, this is where you get your creative juices flowing. You do what you want to do. You do what you think is going to cause someone to click on your video. I've seen people put an interesting question, or tease some sort of concept, or maybe you've done some research and you notice something really unique about the person you're reaching out to. Like if you knew that I was wanting to go to circus school, if you put like, are you going to join the circus anytime soon? I'm probably going to be like, okay, that person read that article or watched that webinar I was on. I'm going to click into this. So this is where you can kind of get your creative element going in what you want to put on that whiteboard.
Okay, cool. So, oh no, here we go. Tyler's got me there. I'm opening that video straight away.
So that's
what I need to do. That's what I need to do with my prospecting. I need to be a lot more creative. I do have low response rates. That's why we're here, right? Okay, so Tyler's he's throwing me under the bus there, so I'm coming to him. So when you get good videos, when you get bad ones, I imagine there's a difference in how long they are sometimes. You said 65 seconds for the reference that you provided before. What's, in loose terms, a maximum length that you would ever consume and then maybe recommend that other people record towards? Because I've done a couple before using Vidyard, and I would go towards 2.5 minutes I felt like it was getting a little bit too long, but any less than that, it felt a little bit too succinct. And obviously there's a balance where you want to make your point and be relevant, but of course it can't be too long that they just don't want to watch it. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'll start on this one. And Ollie, if you're using it for outbound prospecting, then I highly recommend you keep it less than 90 seconds. Honestly, 45 to 60 seconds for a cold prospecting video is going to be your sweet spot, because these are people that, they haven't yet raised their hand. They haven't yet responded to you. You're interrupting their day. And even a 2-minute video at that point is going to feel long to them. And so I encourage you at those early stages, try to keep it short, keep it to around 60 seconds max if you can, and be mindful that that video doesn't have to tell them everything, right? This is your movie trailer, right? This is your little teaser. You're introducing yourself, you're building some rapport, you're showing that you know a little bit about them, and you're ending with a call to action to try to make that next step happen. So don't try to get it all into that first one. Don't try to pitch your entire product, right? Use it as a way to create that connection, to highlight some key points, and to drive to that next call to action, and try to keep it to around 60 seconds. After that cold prospecting, you have liberty to be like, if they respond and they say, this sounds really interesting, could you share a little bit more? Then sure, maybe a 2 to 3 minute video where you're showing them and walking them through. Yeah, absolutely. Here's a quick example of how one of our other customers uses it. I wanted to show you, Then you have a liberty to get a little bit longer in length to make sure you deliver the information they need. But if you're using it for pure prospecting, 60 seconds is your target.
Okay, so Raver, you've got to have some kind of formula here or guidelines that you stick to in your own mind. So how do you divide up those 60 seconds? Are you thinking 5 seconds, 10 seconds to say, hello, I'm Raver, I'm from Vidyard? Then what happens to the rest? Because I imagine you've got to book in the whole why am I emailing you type of thing. Then you've got the pitch, then you've got your call to action. That's quite a lot of things for 1 minute. So how are you balancing it?
Yeah, so I would say this is a skill that I continue to work on, even though I have used Vidyard all these years. Sometimes, your thoughts are a little bit muddled and all over the place. And so you might do a couple run-throughs just to get your bearing on, you know what, actually, I said that out loud and I don't really want to say that. I'm going to save that for another conversation. And so it might take a couple of dry runs to get what you want. But once you have like 100 videos under your belt, you're going to have that structure where I would say my introduction is about 8 to 10 seconds. My outro, and I personally run a little bit closer to that 90-second mark, but if I'm over that, then I'm really, I'm re-recording it probably. And the outro is again 10 seconds. Now, if you sometimes like a couple kind of places where I see reps, including myself, stumble is the end. You kind of wrap up multiple times. You're like, well, thank you so much for listening. And if you want to get in touch, and thank you so much again. And so you got to get that like tight, and then you can just rinse and repeat. I would say another tip that I've learned along the way is the personalized research part, like the fact that you notice something that's super interesting and you can relate it to what you want to talk to them about. Put that in the email. Say, hey, Ollie, noticed this. But put that in the email, and don't try to include it in your video, because when you try to include it in your video, now you're going into that 2 minute, 2.5 minute mark. But you need something there text-wise to make them see, okay, this person's talking about something interesting. I'm going to click on this video. You don't just want to say, hey, Ollie, video, and try to get that thumbnail to speak for itself. So one tip I have is try to take the personalized research on something to build rapport and put that in the email, and then stick to the insightful or ways you're going to help them in the video itself.
Right. Okay. So obviously using the time that we have to talk about the things that we have to say in the video. Otherwise, it's just back to a plain old email. But if you can use that for maybe first sentence of the email, is that where you're putting the whole, I noticed something and here's why I'm contacting you, here's why this is relevant to you, and so on.
Yeah, it's almost like that hook in the email to make them, they're like, oh, this person looks super friendly, but also they sound like they're going to say something interesting too.
Okay, so it seems like we've started to talk about how we structure our email. So I'm going to move to my next slide, and let's start talking about how to maximize viewership. So we've spent some time researching somebody here, our prospect. We're filming a video, maybe 90 seconds, 60 seconds, something like that. We're sending it to them. Obviously, we want to make sure that they watch it, and we don't really have a guarantee that they will, but we're going to try our best. So let's start with Tyler. What's the best tip that you've got for anybody sending a video to get the best open rate and click rate on that video as they can get? Because otherwise, you could be forgiven for being a little bit upset. I just researched you and I spent a minute recording that cool video for you and you didn't even look at it. So we gotta try our best to get that clicking open. What can we do?
Okay, and I'm not just going to give you one tip because there's no silver bullet, but here's what goes into maximizing your viewership. So in the message itself, you have 3 different variables that you can play with. One is the email subject line. So let's assume we're sending this video via email. So the first is your email subject line, because you got to get them to open it in the first place. Now, the neat thing with video is it gives you the opportunity to do new creative subject lines that really stand out and create interest. So instead of your typical subject lines, try something like, if I were, I'll role play here, if I were prospecting you, Ollie, and I might send you the email with the subject line, video for you, Ollie, response rates looking good, question mark, right? So that's my subject line. So video for you, Ollie. First of all, that's going to stand out and be a bit of a pattern disrupt, because most people, if anybody, is sending you a video at work. Response rates looking good, right? There's a bit of a teaser there of like, that's a interesting pain point. So that, first of all, is something you want to think about. So now you've gotten them to open that email. And as Reva was alluding to, you now have that intro copy as a way to create interest and urgency to watch the video. So I might say something like, hey, Ollie, as a sales leader over at AutoClose, I can only imagine how important response rates are when you and your team are prospecting. I created you this 52-second video to quickly explain how I'm helping a couple of other teams in your market boost their response rates by a pretty decent amount. Check it out. And so, I could probably come up with some better wording, but what I've done there is I've quickly teased the problem, but I've also proactively addressed potential objections you may have with watching the video. I said a 53-second video or a 1-minute video to make sure you realize, oh, this is a short time commitment. I said I made it for you, so you have a higher expectation of value. And I said I want to show you something or introduce myself, which is the reason for a video instead of just a plain old email. So you have that opportunity to create that interest, but also to proactively address the potential objections they might have in their head. Now, the third element, of course, is your thumbnail image, right? So when they see that thumbnail image, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and they're going to look at it and they're going to make a real-time decision. And this is why things like, having your name on a whiteboard, having something else that proves to them, right? Because in a split second, when you see this image, this was made for me. This is a real person. My expectation of value is higher. So the email subject, the intro copy, and the thumbnail image all come together. And if you do them all right, you're going to greatly increase that viewership of it. But the last thing, Ollie, if they still don't watch it, I'm like, wait a minute, Ollie, I pulled out all the stops here. Can't believe you didn't watch it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a message on LinkedIn. And I'm going to say, hey, Ollie, I sent you a quick video to your inbox because there's something really cool I wanted to show you. Would love your feedback on it if you get a chance. And by the way, my next phone call to you, Ollie, that's going to be my voicemail. Hey, Ollie, not sure if you saw it, but I actually sent you a video to your inbox, something I made for you personally, because I wanted to show you something really interesting. It's Tyler Lassard. I'm in your inbox. Check it out. I'd love your feedback if you have a minute. Trust me, the video is only 60 seconds. Let me know what you think, right? So then those are my other touch points to drive you back to that video I spent the time to make for you, to make sure I am doing everything I can to get you to engage with that. Because if you watch it, you're going to meet me, you're going to see me, you're going to hear me. So I want to make sure you watch that video.
Okay, folks, everybody loves controversy. I got to challenge Tyler on something here. So I've done a bit of research in the AutoClose emails that have been sent by customers and our friends and partners. And the subject line is obviously very, very important for any email. What I found in the subject line is the best number of words. And again, it really does depend. There's no real definitive answer to this, and it's certainly across different industries. Not having a long subject line is obviously key, especially when we're all looking at emails on our phones. You can see maybe 4 or 5 words on the subject line before it truncates, especially if you have a long word in the subject line, it makes it even less. So a video for you, that's 4 words, but they're strong words because I'm inclined to, resonate with that. It's for me. I'll probably open it. How much do you experiment with saying video for you or referencing the fact that it's a video in the subject line? Because that takes up your real estate, but I think it's important. But of course, you can't say too much more because you've already used up a few words there. So how do you balance that?
I mean, honestly, Ollie, these are just things you need to test in your own market, right? But I think the idea of including video for you, made you this video, right? Those are things that they stand out from everybody else's hacky subject lines, and they reference for you, and they imply very clearly that I've taken the effort to create something for you. So I think they're very powerful. Video for you, made you a video. And we hear time and time again that works really well for sellers. But you don't always have to do that. Absolutely. I mean, you can have a different subject line and introduce the email afterwards. You have to test these things yourselves. But again, we do find that having that word video can work really well, especially when you put it in that context of made this for you, or you create that sort of one-to-one connection with it. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So, Reva, I like your perspective on this. I've tried something and it works. I'll be honest, it wasn't a one-to-one video, so this is sort of a nurturing effect. And I shot a quick video with some tactics that I've seen work, in the hope that it would spark conversation. But the subject line didn't reference the fact that it was a video at all. I sort of alluded to it. I didn't say a video for you about ABC. I said something like 93 seconds on following up more, something like that. So have you experimented with sort of referencing that it is a video, but without saying it? Is there different ways that you can do that? Or is it just generally best to say it's a video, you should watch it?
No, I think that you raise a good point, that is also very intriguing. If you can say, Ollie, in 93 seconds, something, not too long of a subject line, but referencing that amount, because a couple things. One, it's going to make them think, well, how are you going to do it in 93 seconds if they haven't already figured out, oh, it must be a video. But the 93 is a very specific number, so it kind of intrigues someone to want to get in there. And so I would say like two sort of pieces of advice for people who are going to be playing around with subject lines or starting to use video and want to maximize eyeballs on the video. Number one is look at what is working at your company today. If you are using a product that allows you to tap into open rates on your emails, stick to those subject lines. If it's giving you like a 60% open rate, stick to that subject line and let that do the work to get them in the email itself. If you don't have any data to go on, that's where you're going to want to look outwards and see what are other people doing when it comes to subject lines. And at Vidyard, we have a lot of data around subject lines that work. And so we found use video, use the 93 seconds, those perform well, and they're kind of industry agnostic, where it's going to just tap into anyone's kind of intrigue. And so if you have the data internally, use that. But if you don't, kind of look outward to best practices.
Okay, cool. So the last thing that I have to ask you both on this is, thumbnail has been said a bunch of times here. Do you have to use one when you're sending an email? And I know that gives you the real estate of having that whiteboard that here I'm holding something, it's the logo, it's your name, whatever it may be. But have you guys experimented with and maybe seen a drop or an increase on viewership or click through if you don't put the thumbnail in at all?
People will always ask, well, I'm emailing into large enterprises or security conscious organizations, and I'm worried the thumbnail image is going to get stripped down to things like that. And those things happen, right? So, but that said, I think anytime you are sending via email, the opportunity to include that thumbnail image, will absolutely make sense and give you, from what we've seen, a higher opportunity at a response rate. You can absolutely, once you've recorded your video, just hyperlink some of your text and say, I made you this video, and you can hyperlink it and not include the image at all. Again, if you feel in your market that's going to give you a better chance at potentially getting through filters or something, then that might be a reason to do it. But that's typically the only reason I would not include the thumbnail, is if I want to test to see if I'm going to get better rates at getting through firewalls or filters or something like that. Yeah, that's my perspective.
If I can share a perspective.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Reva.
I was going to just say, from like an account executive perspective, where we're using video beyond just prospecting, I would say I fully agree with Tyler that for the most part, use that thumbnail. If I'm prospecting someone and it's my first my first outreach to them, I'm trying to do all the things in my power to make this interesting to engage with. However, I have seen sales reps further along in the sales cycle, if they are sharing something, maybe they have like a walkthrough of pricing and they want that to be their video thumbnail, but they also have some other resources like check out this demo of how we integrate with Salesforce, or check out this customer testimonial that talks about something you referenced in our call. Maybe don't make those ones thumbnails as well, and you could just link it like check out our video on our Salesforce integration, for instance. So I have seen that, and that looks like it works quite well. But if it's your first outreach, like use the thumbnail as much as you can.
Yeah, I guess that, you know, when I'm thinking about sending my first few attempts at a video outreach, you're really leaning on the fact that this is different to an email and this is different to a cold call where I can't see you. So of course you want to double down on you can see me, and you know the thumbnail is kind of what that does. Okay, so let's switch gears. We talked about the call to action loosely there a couple of times. So if we go to my next slide where we're going to talk about how we incorporate it, I'd like to know, Rava, let's start with you again. Where do you do this inside of the video and in the email? Because feedback was said a few times, and I've heard and experimented with that as a call to action. It seems to work really well. It's not the canned, can I get half hour on your calendar or whatever we're asking there. So inside the end of the video, those last few seconds, do you have some sort of templatized script that you're using, and then do you repeat in the email, or do you leave the bottom of the email for the whole feedback line, or how do you address that?
Yeah, I would say the call to action that I'm leaning on lately is from a Gong study on, you know, the best CTAs that seem to generate the most positive responses, and that's something along the lines of, would you be interested in learning more, or, you know, something like that. And I usually say that in my CTA, my call to action in my video is a little bit different because I am using an enterprise solution where I can do really interesting things with my videos. So my video CTA is always, you know, you could book time with me at the end of this video. My calendar is going to pop up, and then my calendar pops up. And then I leave that, would you be interested in chatting more, for my email sign off.
So you're using a widget inside of the video so that they can book time if they would like to without you having to say it. And then in the email body, you're asking for the feedback because that's where they're going to type their reply.
That's exactly right. So if they're in the video and they watched 100% of my video, I want to hit them with a very frictionless experience of, you know, if anything resonated and you want to talk, here's my calendar. So that's what I use that kind of call to action for.
Okay, so Tyler's a very, very busy man. Lots of people want to talk to him. Lots of people want a slice of his budget. What are you doing when you get sent an email and the call to action is, can I get 15 minutes, Tyler, or would you like to learn more? Which kind of ones? And again, I know this depends a lot on what's said or maybe what's not said during the email and the video. But what kinds of call to actions do you lean toward and respond better or worse to?
Well, so there's my personal preference, which I'll try not to say is everybody's, but I think, you know, my preference, and generally when I'm, you know, prospecting with video in my world, is I try to stay away from being too pushy on the meeting as the ask. I think it's always something to include, but me personally, I will never say, yes, let's chat after an initial outreach, right? Never. And my response will typically, if it's something that's piqued enough of my interest, my response 9 times out of 10 will be, sounds pretty interesting. Could you share a little bit more about this? Or can you point me at something I can check out? And, you know, often reps come back and say, actually, you know, it would be really better if we could chat. And at that point, I'm like, delete, unsubscribe, you're gone. Like, you're done. That's not how I want to buy, and you've wasted my time. And so I'm very passionate about this notion that today, most people prefer and expect to be able to consume information offline, and we always have to give them that option. And what I might do, so again, you should absolutely still have your calendar there. Let them know if you're interested in chatting, you know, let's set up some time, but da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, if I were prospecting you again, Ollie, the way I might end my video is I might, you know, maybe I'll do a quick rehearsal here. So my 60 seconds is going to go something like, hey, Ollie, it's Tyler at Vidyard here. You don't know me yet, but I'm reaching out because I know as the, let's say, director of sales at AutoClose, you're probably struggling these days with your team's response rates. And here at Vidyard, I'm actually working with 3 other teams in related markets to yours to help them figure out how they can break through the noise using cool things like personal videos. Now, I would be happy to share with you a few examples of how some others are doing this. If you'd like to chat about it a little bit, my calendar is popping up at the end, but if you'd like, I'd be happy to send you a couple afterwards. Just let me know, and you can check the email as well. Thanks very much. Right? And my ask of you is going to be, can I send you another example of that? Or can I send you another video? And things like that where, again, as somebody who gets that, I'd be like, if this is interesting, I'd be like, yeah, cool. I'd love to see that example, right? It's very easy for me to say that. Very easy to say, yes, send me that, or that sounds interesting, sure, right? And now once I've asked for it, now you get into a conversation. So I'm a big proponent of that, as opposed to things that still make it feel like I got to do work, like booking a meeting, or even I'd be interested in your feedback. I know it works and it is a good call to action, but me as a recipient, I still feel like, well, shit, now I got to write down my feedback. Like you're asking me to do work and you interrupted my day. But if my answer can be, yes, please send me that, or yes, that sounds interesting, right? Those are the things to me that I really appreciate as a buyer.
Okay, so I thought that you were going to go with the feedback thing there. That's something I see a lot, or said differently, it's what are your thoughts, or what did you think, something like that. So it's interesting you say that it's go with the path of least resistance, go for the easy win. As a seller, I can feel the power slipping through my fingers there. It's trickling away from me where, no, I want you to take my call. I need to book discovery calls, Tyler. I don't want to send you that information because, as we all know, sometimes it's hard to get people to warm back up and to respond after you've sent them that information. It's kind of like a dreaded objection, you could say. But I think what you're trying to say is you're almost flipping it. You're putting the power back into their hands to conduct business how they want to not have to jump through the hoops of having that phone call. But also, if you're using Vidyard and you're doing it right, you can tell when they open the video. So you can tell when they've looked at the content so you can follow up. Is that kind of the way that you're trying to get reps to think about it?
Well, and so this is a really important point, Ollie, because in the old world where you'd say, all right, if my call to action was, can I send you an example of this or more information on this? And somebody says, yeah, sure. And then what would you do? You'd send over like a link to a case study, or you'd send over like a PDF attachment of something, or you'd send a canned video over. And you've lost that opportunity now to keep building that relationship, and you just feel like you're giving them something they could already have access to. And that is a little bit of loss of control. However, if you think about it in this way and you say, all right, my next follow-up, right? What I'm going to send you, Ollie, if you said, yeah, actually, that sounds interesting, fire it over. So I'm not just going to send you a link to a case study or a pre-recorded customer video. I'm going to make you another video because I want you to keep meeting me and keep earning your trust. And I'm going to make you a video with a screen share. And I'm going to bring up one of those examples of what somebody else has done. And I'm going to say, hey, Ollie, it's Tyler again. Thanks so much for your response. So I wanted to quickly show you this and explain how they did it. So here's an example of what my other customer this just did. And you wouldn't believe it. Their response rates are going through the roof. Not everybody gets that, but this is a great example. And here, I'm just going to quickly show you, And then again, at the end of that, I'm now progressing my calls to action. Now I'm moving closer to, this sounds super cool. I'd actually love to just chat because we can brainstorm a little bit about how you could do something like this as well, right? So if you're up for a quick brainstorm, Chad, let me know. I'd be happy to do it. My calendar is popping up. But let's see if we can find some time next week, right? So now I'm moving closer to that. But I've now sent you another video of me delivering my message. So I'm not losing control here at all, right? I'm giving them control, but I'm still participating in the conversation. It's just happening asynchronously now. And that's the real power of this stuff. And I think that's where it's, because you have video as your next follow-up, you can still do this without losing that control or losing the ability to keep your face in the conversation.
Okay, so AutoClose team, I would just love to clip the way Tyler pitched me a moment ago. I need that script, I need that structure so that I can copy it because that was awesome. If that's what awesome looks like, I would love to know, Raver, have you ever seen a video that just got the call to action totally wrong? I mean, they might have researched you, they might have delivered a really relevant pitch and a value prop, but the call to action just destroyed it. Have you ever seen that? Have there ever been surprises that you thought that'll work and then no, didn't at all?
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind on a particular example, but I think like re-emphasizing what Tyler said, buyers want to buy the way they want to buy. They're very busy. They're not thinking about your product all day, and they don't have 15 or 30 minutes to talk to every single person who reaches out to them. So I think if you can have a killer 60-second video and then you ask for 30 minutes of their time, or can I walk you through a demo, that's where you might lose them, because it's like, how are you going to demo for me when you've never even spoken to me, or I don't have 30 minutes, I'm busier now than I've ever been. So even though we want that quick win and we want that 30 minutes on someone's calendar, it's about those micro commitments of, can I get you to lean in more and more and more, so that eventually you're saying, hey, can I get 30 minutes on your calendar? I want to bring my team in. That's way more powerful than a rep just pushing that 30-minute meeting over and over again. So I think it's the asking for too much too soon CTA that's going to ruin a really good video.
Okay, I
it's
love
the
it.
same
I love
thing,
it.
Ollie and Reva. It's the same thing as like LinkedIn invites, right? Like it's the exact same thing. When I get that LinkedIn invite and it's like, hey, it's Reva from Vidyard here. Hope I could follow you. And by the way, we do this, and I'd love to get a account. And I'm like, delete, like unfollow, like ignore. You haven't even like bridged it to me yet. And I think you're absolutely right. And it's like, at the very least, make sure you're bridging the conversation into how you can help. But those softer, more authentic ones, it's actually really neat, Ollie, when you start doing this with video. One of the things you start to find is that when you get really comfortable with it, right? And you can see even like how I talk on camera here, is that you start to really lean into this feeling of like authenticity and being genuine and like honestly putting out your passion and saying like, I want to help you. Like, I really want to help you. And once you start getting into that mindset, like this isn't even a video thing. This is just a fundamental sales approach of, are you trying to sell them or are you trying to help them? And if you wake up every day and you turn on your computer and you go, I'm going to help. I'm not going to sell. I'm going to help 5 people today be a little bit better at their jobs. And I frickin' can't wait to do it, because I love this, right? And you literally have that mentality and you hit record. Like what I just said there, that wasn't a pre-scripted thing, Ollie. That was just like, if I was trying to help Ollie, here's what I would do. I'd be like, I got something to show you. I'd love to brainstorm a little bit about how you could do something similar. Like, that's helpful. And that's where like these really, but it also feels very genuine when you say it in human voice. And your first few videos trying to do it isn't going to work. But if you really have that mentality, you're like, okay, I'm here. Like, my passion's going to come through. That's half of it. Like, your messaging is important, but if you can just get that true, honest passion in there, that might sell you just as much as your messaging, because you're showing, hey, I want to help. Right? I'll get off my soapbox now. That's my story.
I was going to say, you got some steam coming out of your ears, buddy. I can tell you're passionate about it. It's good to see. Okay, folks, so we're going to move to our last talking point for today. We're going to talk about, where does video fall in the cadence? And I've experimented with this a little bit myself. It's a difficult balance to strike, I think. Because I'm trying to do a lot more video prospecting, I think my bias has slightly taken me away from what is truly the best practice. The first touch, I'm not sure if that's the best spot to do a video. Maybe that is when you do the just plain text email, or you call first, whatever it may be. But I have tried the video touch first, and I wasn't sure that it worked best. It's probably around 3rd to 5th touch, which is where I saw it work a bit better. But I'd love to know where you stand on this, Raver. So what, if you can share a little bit of an insight into your own cadence and what the other folks at Vidyard are doing in terms of first touch through to maybe last touch, where do you think video falls in best, and how many times and that kind of stuff? Where do you think it should work?
Yeah, so I personally, everyone at Vidyard might have not everyone, but I think there are people that do it one way and people that do it another way, at least at Vidyard. I personally use video on the first touch. That might be because I'm selling a video product. I am trying to put my product on display right away, but something that I am planning to play with is having sort of a split test of video first or text-based email first and then video. And in that case, I would be sending video as a second touch. So that's one thing. I know there are people at Vidyard too that will do video as that first touch. And if they don't get any engagement on that email, around the fifth touch, they're sending that same video again with a different subject line, trying to see if something different works. I would say in a cadence, towards the end is another really great place to use video, or even in the middle. And those would be less those one-to-one webcam videos and more the, take a moment, record a video that you're going to send out 100, 200 times. Maybe it's a customer story, maybe it's a little demo, or maybe it's kind of like that end where you didn't make a connection with someone and you want to say, I hope what I shared was helpful, maybe we'll be in touch in the future. Try to find those one-to-many opportunities and put them into the middle and at the very end of your cadence, I would say.
Okay, so you're trying to use video as sort of a centerpiece in a way. And I think Tyler was saying before, if let's say you do send that video and they don't reply or anything like that, it doesn't mean that it ends there. It means that you get to send that LinkedIn note. It means you get to call them. And maybe if they don't reply to that call and you have to leave a voicemail, then you can follow up again about it. And then maybe a couple of days later, if there's no bite on that at all, maybe it's the topic. So then you could try another video and do the whole thing again. Is that kind of fair?
Yeah, and I would say asking yourself, when does it make sense to do a one-to-one video, and when does it make sense to kind of recycle a video over and over? Because I don't think you need to do a one-to-one video throughout your cadence. If you're using video 3 or 4 times, that's going to take a long time and it's probably not going to pay off. So make the decision on where do you use one-to-one and where do you use the same video over and over again.
Okay, so I'm going to bet Tyler's been in a few cadences in his life, and I bet he's been the recipient of many a video, maybe some one-to-one, maybe some one-to-many. Have you ever noticed that you were in a cadence and it was just obvious in which order they were using videos and that kind of stuff? In the same way that Ray was saying you can follow up using the video but not directly sending it again. Have you ever noticed that? I know you're talking about the video you sent me last Thursday. Yeah. I didn't happen to be interested in it, but I know what you're doing, and props for that. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly do overall see patterns in cadences, and I can, somebody in the market, you can start to recognize, oh, yep, okay, can't wait for next Thursday when I get that next text message from that person, right? But in terms of how people are using videos, I don't know that I've necessarily seen a consistent pattern or that people are using any certain templates yet. I do find there are some types of videos that do seem to be working at different points in the sales process, that less so ones I'm getting, but more so when I'm working with other sellers out there, that they're telling me, hey, this type of video has worked really well at this point. And there's a few different, I'd say almost like templates. We talked about the webcam video with the whiteboard, which people are often using early in their cadence as a way to create that human rapport. Then maybe a little bit later, they are a common one is recording a screen share video with your face in the corner. So with Vidyard, you can record your screen as well as your camera. And in that, they may be doing what we call the LinkedIn hover video, where they're bringing up that prospect's profile. So if they were prospecting me, they'd have my LinkedIn profile up on the screen, and then their face is in the corner. And when I see that, again, as somebody, I'll be like, okay, that's me. All right. Let's see what this is about. And when you click play, they say, hey, Tyler, noticed, as a VP of marketing at Vidyard, I'm wondering if something is this challenge to you. I work with a few other marketing leaders and they're all having this issue, blah, blah, blah. So the LinkedIn hover, people hovering over your website as a way to transition a conversation. So there are some common templates like those that we found are working for people that they'll use at different points. So those I'm starting to see. I'll get a video, I'll be like, oh, look, it's the LinkedIn hover video, cool, right? But it's still not happening that frequently yet that I see these happening too much.
I love that. And I'm sad to say we're coming to the end of the session, so we've got to start wrapping up. But if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to ask one final tip and one final trick along with where can people find you. So maybe we'll start with Tyler. Where can people learn more about Vidyard? Where can they get their hands on it? Tell us your last final trick to take away, and where can people find you and connect with you as well?
Yes, so Vidyard overall, so we have great tools to do all the things we're talking about here, and it's free, which is the best part. So you can sign up for Vidyard at vidyard.com/free. Lots of resources in the Learn section of our website on how to use video in the sales process. Lots of tips, tricks, methodologies, and templates. So check things out there. And again, it's a really easy way to record and send custom videos as part of the sales process. Me personally, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'll tie this into my final tip, which is I alluded to it in my last topic there, is that there are some consistent ways people are using these videos that are working right now. There are some consistent templates, some consistent scripts that really seem to be working. So you don't have to reinvent everything from the ground up. We've got a bunch of those. If you're interested in my top 10 video prospecting templates, our sample video scripts, just connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a note, let me know, say, hey, would love those, prospecting templates, and I'll send them over or point you to them, and hopefully they help. So connect with me on LinkedIn and hope to see you over there.
Awesome. And Rava, what's your tip and trick, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so people can find me on LinkedIn too. So feel free to connect, send me a message if you have questions or just want to chat. I'm happy to chat with people. I would say my one tip is, maybe it's two, get out of your own way. Don't get too in your head about it. You can always delete the video. You can always re-record. You are going to sound silly in some videos. You are going to have bloopers. That's fine. Kind of embrace that. And once you get over that learning hump, you're going to find kind of your groove and feel more confident. The other thing that can be helpful is if you're trying this out for the first time, maybe find a buddy to do this with. If you've got a friend in a similar role, different company even, just pair up and say, like, we're going to hold each other accountable. I'm going to give this like a valid go. I'm going to make enough videos before I decide this is not working or it is working. But like sharing, like, oh gosh, look at this video that I just messed up in, or hey, I sent this video out and I got like 100% view and someone responded. It's always fun to share that and kind of learn from each other. So I would say, like, do it with someone else. It can make it more fun.
Okay, I love it. That's a wrap, folks. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Rava, for being here. Thank you very much for sharing everything that you've let us know about how all the best practices, all the structures and templates that we can go and use right away. I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with my video prospecting as a result of this. So, folks, don't forget to watch out in your email inbox. You'll get the recording of this. And I will see you on the next webinar. Thanks very much for being here.